Good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. Will you please stand and cite with me the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. This is the December zoning board meeting. Our next meeting will be January 31st, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Do you want to read the preamble? Sure.
Good evening to those in attendance and watching at home. For the benefit of those who have not previously attended zoning board hearings, the procedure is as follows. The petitions will be heard in the order that they appear on the agenda. However, the chair may change that order at their discretion. The board will treat all petitioners, their representatives, abutters, and other interested parties fairly and with respect. The petitioner will be asked to give an overview of their portion and read through their responses to the criteria applicable to their case, allowing for the board to ask questions after each item. State law and local ordinances establish the criteria that must be met in order for the board to grant approval to a petition, and it is the petitioner's responsibility to demonstrate that they have met each criteria. Following the presentation, the chair will open the floor for public comment, either in favor or opposed to the request. If necessary, an opportunity for rebuttal will be offered to the petitioner and public. However, all discussions will not be allowed to devolve into back and forth arguments. All comments made shall be directed toward the chair. Should a question be asked, the chair will pose the question to the petitioner. Afterward, the chair will close the public hearing and the board will deliberate and vote on the petition. At this time, please silence all mobile devices.
Thank you. Chuck Moyer will sit in for Lynn Christensen tonight, and he'll be voting. And I'd like to advise the petitioners that we normally have a body of 5, and tonight we only have 4 voting members. And it requires 3 affirmative or negative votes to render a decision. And since we don't have the full board, you have the right to postpone if you wish. Do you wish to do so?
No, I did have Mr. Dwyer alerted me
Okay.
right when I got here, and I did contact my client, and they would like to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Pardon? Okay, now, for those that plan on speaking tonight, will you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Okay, so the first and only petitioner tonight, PMG Northeast LLC and Blue Hills Fuel LLC, the owner. Variance under section 17.10.3B of the zoning ordinance to permit a ground sign within 2 feet of the edge of the public right-of-way, whereas 20 feet is required. The parcel is located at 1 Continental Boulevard in the C2 General Commercial and Aquifer Conservation Districts. Tax map 4D, lot 54-1. Case number ZBA 2023-37. The petitioner seeks a variance under section 17.10.3 of the B of the zoning ordinance to permit a ground sign. I don't have to read it? Okay. All right.
Make sure
Okay.
your light's on.
Okay. Go ahead and proceed, please.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Megan Carrier. I am an attorney at Sheehan, Finney, Bass & Green, and I am here representing the applicant. With me tonight is Michael Montgomery, who is the applicant's general contractor for this project. As the board is aware, and as you just mentioned, we're here seeking a variance from section 17.10.3B of the town's zoning ordinance, which requires a 20-foot setback for signage, and the applicant does seek to place a freestanding sign within 2 feet of the edge of the public right-of-way. This project involves the replacement of a previously in place gas station and convenience store with a new gas station and convenience store. And the applicant proposes to locate the new sign very near to the location where the sign for the previous use was. As you might have noticed in reviewing the application materials, the board did grant the applicant this same variance back in 2020, but that variance has lapsed, and so we're back here tonight to seek the same variance again. So I'll just briefly review the variance criteria, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Turning to the first criterion, granting the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. A variance is contrary to the public interest if it would either alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. Here, a decision to grant the requested variance would not alter the essential nature of the essential character of the neighborhood. We feel that we're essentially improving on what was already there. We're replacing one gas station with a newer, nicer one. And the neighborhood is also solidly commercial. There's fast food restaurants and pizza restaurants alongside, abutting the site. So we feel that this use is consistent with other nearby uses. The decision to grant the variance would also not threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. Again, we're proposing to locate the sign in essentially the same location or very close to where the previous sign was. And that one was in place for quite some time and didn't prove to be a threat to public safety in any way. The second criterion, the variance will preserve the spirit and intent of the ordinance. Section 17.01 of the ordinance provides that the purpose of this article is to encourage the effective use of signage to direct movement, advertise, and inform the public while protecting public safety, preserving neighborhood character, and minimizing visual clutter. The proposed location of the ground sign, we feel, will achieve those purposes. It ensures that drivers on both roads, because this property is situated on a corner, drivers on both roads will be informed about the location of the convenience store and the gas station. In addition, the requirement that a variance not be contrary to the public interest is related to the requirement that it be consistent with the spirit of the ordinance. So because the proposed sign, we feel, will not be contrary to the public interest, this second criterion is satisfied as well. The third criterion, there is substantial justice in granting the variance. This criterion requires the board to weigh the harm that the general public would suffer if this variance is granted against the gain to the applicant. And here we feel that the public would not experience any harm from or not really enjoy any gain from a denial of this variance. Signage set further back from Continental Boulevard and Camp Sargent Road would result in sort of a less clearly marked gasoline station and convenience store. It would be more difficult for drivers on both roads to see it, which we actually feel runs counter to the ordinance and harms the general public rather than helping it. In addition, again, the proposal represents essentially no change from what has been present on the site for many years. So where there's no harm to any member of the public against which to weigh the gain to the applicant, there is substantial justice in granting the variance. Fourth criterion, the values of surrounding properties will not be diminished if the variance is granted. We don't see any evidence to support that granting the requested variance will have any meaningful impact on the values of surrounding properties. I know I definitely sound like a broken record at this point, but again, we're replacing what was already there, so there's not really a change that could have any kind of significant impact on property values. Finally, literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. This is typically the most difficult criterion for an applicant to satisfy, although applicants no longer need to prove that denial of the variance would essentially preclude all reasonable use of the property. What they do need to prove is that owing to special conditions of the property that make it different from other properties in the area, there's no fair and substantial relationship between the purposes of the ordinance provision in question and application of that provision to the property, and that the proposed use is a reasonable one. So this property is unique in that it's located on the corner of Continental Boulevard and Camp Sargent Road. And owing to that unique feature, specific application or strict application of the ordinance provision would not promote the purposes of the ordinance, which are, again, to direct movement, advertise, and inform the public while protecting public safety, preserving neighborhood character, and minimizing visual clutter. The proposed sign location, which is near the corner of the two intersecting roads, actually better serves the purpose of the ordinance than would a sign set back 20 feet. A sign that was constructed in accordance with the ordinance would actually leave the public less informed about the location of the gas station and convenience store and would be more difficult to see. The proposed sign location is reasonable because it makes the most effective use of the site's location. Also, the fact that the sign for the previous use was located in roughly the same location as the proposed sign and successfully carried out the purposes of the ordinance demonstrates that the proposed location is reasonable. Finally, it would be unreasonable for the applicant to utilize the property in strict conformance with the ordinance because due to the size and location of the property, compliance with the ordinance provision would require the sign to be set so far back from the roads that the utility of the site would be greatly diminished. Under these circumstances, we feel that a variance is necessary to enable reasonable use of the property. For all of these reasons, we respectfully request that the board grant the variance, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Okay, let's move to Q&A from the board. Chuck?
I believe the most important consideration for the sign is that it's fully directional for Santa Claus. He is, after all, the most important person who wants to know where to go and needs a sign like that to guide him. And I think what you've proposed is an excellent solution for his sore old eyes.
Perfect, thank you.
Pardon?
So the current sign is located kind of in a shrub. When I look at the pictures here, okay. Is this sign going to be similar? So it's going to be facing sideways, or is it going to be facing? So is it facing Continental Boulevard, or is it facing Sargent Road, Camp Sargent Road?
Let me just see.
Parallel Camp Sargent, looks like.
That's what I was. Well, so herein lies my concern.
Okay.
Is that you're putting, it looks like you're putting it in front of where the shrubs are, where that current sign is, based upon the map here. So my concern, and it would relate to the, sorry, hold on a second. It would relate to, safety, is that you're kind of pushing that up a little bit, which with the new sign having a little bit thicker of a post, if and you're putting it in front of the shrub, you're gonna cut off anybody there that's. I know there's a light there, but you're gonna cut off all the visual from the side there. You see what I'm saying?
Yep, I see what you're saying. Do you have any information about the exact location of the sign and sort of which way it's going to be angled? Looks like it's going to be.
It looks, it's coming off corner just slightly, and it will be in front of the shrubs. As far as visibility, I don't see where the visibilities can be impacted. You have to understand there's also power lines, a string of power lines running down that side of that street.
I'm more of looking at like the drivers, just drivers visibility. But
I think, is this the sign package here?
Yeah.
And that could be,
I guess it really isn't that big of a deal. I mean, because you're looking at anybody coming off that turn, taking a right on red is not going to be looking in that direction, and there's a street light there. So
and also
Patrick,
they're taking away there was 2 poles on the existing sign, and it's being reduced to just 1 pole.
Yeah.
And it's a new flag configuration.
okay.
Patrick, if I may, I do not believe there's going to be any shrubbery there based on what the site looks like now. So I do not believe there's any shrubs there currently.
No, and I kind of
Some small ones, but not as big as that was there.
As what was in
Okay,
previous.
perfect.
and I think I kind of answered my own question. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm good. I withdraw. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay. I'd like to open the hearing to the public. Is there anyone that wants to speak in favor of the proposal? I see none. Is there anyone who wants to speak against the proposal? I see none. close the hearing. And we move to deliberations.
I approved this the last time it came through, so I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be, we should move forward again. I remember hearing this last time. Actually, Ben, you were probably on the board too at that time.
Yeah.
too.
I may have been, yeah.
I make a motion that the board finds the petitioner's responses to the statutory criteria are sufficient, provided each criterion is met, and the board adopts the petitioner's responses as the board's findings of fact, and further to grant the variance under section 17.10.3B of the zoning ordinance to permit a ground sign within 2 feet of the edge of the public right-of-way, whereas 20 feet is required.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
Since
very
it's
much.
unanimous, 4-0. So it's approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good evening.
Okay, discussion, possible action regarding other items of concern among the board? Anything else? Chuck? You're good? Okay. We'll move to approval of minutes, November 29th, 2023. Do I hear a motion?
I actually wasn't here, but I correct me if I'm wrong. Wolfram isn't an alternate. I thought Wolfram was a member.
Excuse me one moment while I double check.
I could be wrong. Maybe he is an alternate. I thought he was a full member.
I have him as an alternate,
Okay.
Then never mind then.
but I believe we do. Yeah, because Brian, Ben, Lynn, Rich, and Patrick are full-time members.
Okay.
Chuck and Wolfram are alternates.
Okay. Never mind.
Okay. Anything else?
Motion to approve as distributed.
A second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstention, okay. So the minutes are passed 3-0-1.
I wasn't here and I didn't see the meeting, so.
Okay.
Motion to
I
adjourn.
think that yep, go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. So we are adjourned.
Happy New Year.